In this episode of the VBC podcast, the podcast for the veteran business community, I'm talking with Jesse Gray from BBS Tax. Now, Jesse was an infantryman, mortar guy, so did a couple of deployments to East Timor and Afghanistan, and I really get in and unpack those stories of his these adventures overseas. But then we switch over to talk about all that good stuff about money and accountancy, and really what you need from a good accountant, what it takes to be a good accountant, and how to build a relationship with one that can actually really focus on your success. So stick around. We've got Jesse Gray from BBS Tax next. G'day, my name's Pete Liston and welcome to the Veteran Business Community Podcast. I'm talking today with Jesse Gray from BBS Tax. G'day, Jesse.
Hi, Pete. How you doing?
Mate, I'm well. Whereabouts in the world are you today?
I am at home in Brisbane, in one of the inner city suburbs of Kedron, just on the north side, and it's a really nice day, but apparently it's going to storm later on.
Mate, absolute cracker. It's springtime here on the Central Coast where we are, and it's just getting that beautiful vibe in the air of the first hot breeze, the first hot winds from the west, mate. So let's kick off. Where did you grow
up? Born in Newcastle, first 5 years in Saltash, so right under the Williamstown Air Force Base flight paths.
Oh, yeah.
From there out to Tottenham, which is about 2 hours west of Dubbo. From there, then down to Adelong and Batlow at the foothills of the Snowy Mountains. From there up to Port Macquarie at 11 years old. Was there till 19, onto the Gold Coast until 24 when I joined.
Mate, what was dragging you around these different places and moving from here to there?
Dad was a teacher, so he went, well, he was teaching, got out, owned a nursery when I was born, went back to teaching, got sent out to Tottenham. Mum and Dad split up. Mum moved down to Snowy Mountains. Boys being boys, when they get to the age of boys, she said, you guys need the father in your life there. Yeah. Ships up to Dad's. And then there, growing up, she eventually moved up there as well. So we're all like pretty close in the same area for all the teenage years. And then Port's a great place to grow up. But at that stage, it was basically the world's biggest retirement village. So you turn 18, 19, there's not much going on. You want to eat out, and the Gold Coast looked like a whole lot better.
Yeah, mate. I grew up in Katoomba in the Blue Mountains, and I moved to Port with a mate. I think it might have been about 19 or 20 or something. And because it was just far enough from Katoomba to be away from Katoomba, but it was close enough that you could get home, without people visiting you very often. But we moved up to Calwalla Crescent near Shelley Beach, I think it was. Yep. Mate, love it. And Port was just magic, man. What a spot. Great part of Australia. Yeah. So were you always inclined to join the military, or what tickled your fancy to get in?
No, not really. So I was managing Domino's pizza stores. Great job to have. Your social life dies because you're working every night and every weekend. Yeah. All the pizza you can eat, though, which sounds fantastic, but it's not always. And it just gets repetitive, and you're going there's got to be more to do. I want something more exciting. And it was just maybe a random Facebook ad or a movie I watched or something. I went, let's kick off. And went and signed up and had a great time.
Not that I want to slander Domino's, but it's all right. Not spectacular, but it's all right. Not bad pizza, but
look, if you walk in at 7 o'clock on a Friday when they're getting pumped and making 100 pizza every half hour, you're not going to get the greatest. But I'm sitting there making my own masterpiece creations later at night with your time, and they were fantastic.
Yeah, mate. What was it about the army in particular, or was it anything, or was it just an adventure?
It was, let's go do the fun, hardcore stuff. Learn some skills. We'll be really fit. We'll be carrying on as that mid-20s bravado of just wanting to get out there and do something crazy.
So how did you find Kapooka and Singo?
Not that bad.
Yep.
I guess, you go in there knowing just shut up and do what you're told. You're probably going to have a pretty easy time, which we did. I think we got pretty lucky with Singo, with the platoon we got put into, because we had not necessarily cruisy, but not as hardcore instructors as the platoon opposite us, who one of their guys had an inch of water missing out of the top of their water bottle. They all got made to pull all their packs out in the parade ground, pour it over their heads, and then refill from a fire hose pointed up in the air for 3 hours at night on a Friday.
Are you kidding? I have not heard of that.
Experiences may vary.
That's right. What do they say? the beatings will continue until morale improves, but not quite that kind of experience at Singo.
Yeah.
Mate, which battalion? Did you do a bit of a trip around the battalions, or were you a one-stop guy?
Straight to 8-9. So back then they were re-raising
Yeah,
and just pumping as many in as they could and redeveloping their capabilities. So there might have been like 30 of us from my platoon nearly got sent straight to 8-9.
yeah,
So good in a way because you've got that support group you've already built around you to go in there into a new environment. Not great because you don't have all that really built-in experience from older guys in a battalion straight away to fix you up. But
yep.
from what we had, we did a pretty good job there.
So, what was? Did you end up getting support company or any specialist skills?
Yeah, so rifle company start off with, then into a mortar platoon.
Yep.
Um, you just do your job there, start off with a number 3, and then eventually deployed as the section CPOA to Afghan in 2012.
So, did you do deployments? You did Afghan and Timor.
Did Timor in 2010 just as a rifleman, as
Yep.
the section SIG. And then 2012, Afghan CPOA in a mortar section.
Got it. I did Timor probably, and I think my Timor trip was like 29, 210, TLBG4 with 3RR. And what was
Mhm.
your experiences like over there? It was very, for us, it was a very like quiet trip. It wasn't long after Ramos Horder got shot, but it was just standard security operations. There wasn't any combat activity. Um, yeah, especially my role was, as random log officer somewhere, but it seemed like the lads were getting out, seeing a lot of the country, doing a lot of patrolling and that. But what was your experience like?
Yeah, same kind of thing. A lot of security on the certain bases around there. We did go out and do a couple of longer range patrols. So we
Yeah.
did my section got chopped up into one of the mountains over by the border.
Yeah.
And from there, they just went out and did some like current recce on the routes around there and what was going on recently, just for int purposes, I guess. And then we got chopped back down to meet up with the rest of the platoon and did, I think, a week long in the 60s back to base, just
Yep.
going through villages, seeing what's going on, chatting to people, seeing what's up, doing a bit of the recce and the int reporting. No combat. We did one day while we are out, just visiting one of the local churches, have what we assume is a Chinese spy walk straight up, put cameras in our faces and take photos.
Yeah.
And the ROE isn't, oh cool, we can't really do anything here. It's just buzz off, mate, report it, escalate it. And we would have quite a lot of people coming and watching us when we're on the ranges doing stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, very very quiet time though. It's not war deployment. You're there doing other jobs, and
Yeah.
that's fine.
It's what about Afghan 2012 with 8-9?
Afghan was a bit different. So we rocked up in the middle of a snowstorm. So our plane did the circular loop straight down, no visibility. So we were there for winter coming into summer, and we went, I think it was late Jan to early July. So
Yeah, I
we
remember.
were kind of leading right as it was getting hot in the summertime and the fighting season was going on. But we did
Yeah.
see some combat, a couple of things kind of later on in the tour. Um, our task group was pretty lucky with casualties.
Yeah.
We did on our particular mentoring team, some of our Afghan partners, we did lose some of those guys. But as a whole, our Aussie group was pretty safe and pretty looked after.
What rank were you over there then?
Just a digger.
Just a digger? I do remember because I was there at the same time supporting the transition between 2RAR and 8-9. I think MTF3 and MTF4, if I've got that right. And I
Yeah.
do remember, I've never seen snow that deep, like not on a ski field. And I do remember one day there was a whole heap of 2RAR lads, trying to get out. They've just done a long trip. I think it was like an 8-month deployment, a bit of a rough deployment. And it had snowed or there was ice on the runway. And the Herc comes in and the Herc sort of looked and then it just took off and went back to where was it? Dubai again. And I just remember
Mhm.
looking at these lads just going, man, that's just gut wrenching. That so close to getting out of there. And then a couple more days in camp.
That
How
that
did you
very possibly could have been our first attempted flight in because that happened to us on our first flight in. Yeah,
that might have been
came
you in
in
that plane, mate.
vertical and they went, we can't get down, fellas. Sent us back. We tried again the next day and got in.
Oh, mate. The so what were your experience of combat and how did you deal with that, as a professional rifleman?
So we just got like random pot shots and stuff taken at us while we're over there. My mortar section, because our combat team was kind of split across 2 or 3 bases. And
Yep.
so us as the mortar element, we would sometimes get asked like, hey, we need some extra fire support up here. Can you guys come give us a hand?
Yep.
So the first one was Anzac Day when we were over there.
Yep.
We'd been shuttled up to a separate base just separately. So didn't get our Anzac Day beers till we got back on Anzac Day. But we were all just hopping into bed. In this other smaller FOB we'd rocked up to, and we hear some stuff just kind of popping off out the front. And we go, what's going on? One of our snipers runs up to the tower and he goes, I can see what looks like insurgents digging in an IED on that path that the ANP use all the time. The ANP have noticed them and lit up. And so started a firefight there. We're just up the road in this FOB, and we've got all these A&A elements outside the FOB camped up as well.
Yep.
So some of them have started having a crack. Our DFSW boys have jumped over and thrown some aluminum up in the 84s, and there was a bit of skirmishes inside and outside, but not a lot we could do then. So that was the first kind of little one. And then on our one of our later kind of week-long patrols, we got lit up a couple of times.
Yep.
Coming back through, an A&A Hummer hit an IED and lost 4 or 5 guys, I think. And there was a kind of half an hour, 45-minute contact while that occurred. So very mild experience compared to others. But I think on that patrol, I think my mortar section, the first mortar section to do a crash action in combat since Vietnam.
Yeah. So you got some mortars downrange?
Yeah, we got mortars downrange a lot of times, for bedding in purposes, and then in a couple of contacts, we actually fired on a firing point in one of the contacts and heard nothing else out of them, but up a mountain, no way to confirm. And yeah, happy to be proven wrong if there's been another crash action, but from far as we know, that's the first one inside of combat since Vietnam.
Mate, I love how you sort of, as Australian soldiers, we're all very self-deprecating about our experiences, and like mate, I was a logging officer, mate. So I slept in a bed in a shipping container nearly every single night, and had a cappuccino and a bit of cake every morning, mate. So my experiences are well humble, but there's always this thing of somebody's done it worse, or I've visited a few contacts, but it wasn't that bad, or So, but I just want to gloss over the fact that an infantryman doing his job out in the field in warfare is no little thing, no matter who you are, mate. So hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you.
On that trip, got home, how did you feel that you're settling in after doing a couple of trips now, doing the Timor and doing Afghan gig? What's next for you in uniform?
So I was carrying a back injury in Afghan, had to get special waivers to sign off to go. So coming back from that, we knew there'd be some issues and to be dealt with. So I had 2 surgeries a year back. So I got mech downgraded as soon as we got back. For some reason, the battalion gave the clerk who hadn't even finished their Brosel a year of leave without pay. So they were down a clerk. So support company had no clerk. And I said, hey, I can do OJTs and jump in and kind of help out if you want. So I got a little bit of OJT before they left, jumped in doing that. Because otherwise you just go to rehab platoon and sit there and fill in gaps. And I felt I could offer some more doing the actual role somewhere. They had no one. So they were happy for it to happen. So basically did nearly all of 2013. So the end of 2012 after we got back, in 13 while mech downgraded, filling in the clerk role for support company. Had a shoulder surgery, had a back surgery, early 2014, trying to come back to work, and it was just ongoing physio, and it really didn't recover very well. And at that point it was just time off and just rehab, and then med discharge started 15.
Yeah. Mate, it's important to stick around and be a part of the battalion and not, get posted out, or so you're able to sort of really, keep contributing. Part of the lads, got my time, got my cred, but I'm still doing my role in the place.
Yeah. I didn't want to just go sit up the top and, do nothing when they needed help down there. Yeah. And it keeps you kind of embedded in it with your mates and your support network, and you're still, getting a little bit of PT in within your limitations and still doing some effective work, I guess.
Now, you're an accountant now, and you're running around an accounting firm, BBS Tax. But was it that time as a clerk that really made you, I don't want to say fall in love with admin, because I don't know if anyone falls in love with admin, but is this now kind of a transition kind of moment where this stuff's not too bad, I get it?
I had a Cert 4 before joining, so I did that in my early 20s.
A Cert for an
And
accountancy?
when Cert 4 in accounting, yeah.
Yep.
And I've done a little bit of work with it before for someone. And so getting out, when I get out, I wasn't great. Like I could spend days at a time in bed just, because I was walking and the footpath was an inch off and I dropped and jarred my back and I'm out.
Yep. Done.
So I need to find something I can do a laptop in bed at points in time. So got out the first kind of 6 months of being out, did nothing, and it drove me crazy.
Mm.
Just kind of there on the Xbox, cycling through games and going, this isn't, there's no goal, there's no achievements. This is fantastic. So I went, all right, well, let's jump back into some study, find something I can do a little bit of. Did that, and then while doing that, was helping a mate do like prep his tax return. And he just went, man, like I don't really understand it. You understand it, or can you come to my appointment with me? And so you just tell me what's going on afterwards. So went up to that, was sitting there chatting through it, saying, hey, here's what we prepped. And the owner of that firm just kind of went like, oh, how do you know this? Like, look, I'm studying a little bit, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
And just offered me a job on the spot. I said, look, here's my
Straight up.
limitations. And they just went, don't care, we'll work around it. So I was
Yeah.
studying and working. Well, then I went and did my degree. So already having a little bit of the nous around it and some training. I was pretty good at school. I got a head for numbers, and then being, I guess, in a mortar platoon, sitting there doing three different things at once and involve numbers and working some fire calculators and stuff, and on the radio, so you learn how to do things at the same time in that kind of regard. And then with the admin, the army teaches you admin is a very certain way. Here's your attention to detail, make sure it's right, because you get beasted if it's not. So I guess that drove in the let's do stuff really correct and make sure it's right facet of what I try to do now. But no one falls in love with being the paper bitch.
Yeah. Tell me how did BBS start? So you finished your degree, you're working
Mhm.
as an accountant with someone. Where did that itch come from? That's like, no, I can do this myself.
Um, well, it wasn't so much that, okay, I can do this myself, I'm going to bail and
Yep.
do it myself. The owner of the firm I was at went, I'm putting it up for sale. The first offer that came through that was like to proceed was with three partners. So to
Yep.
come take over and we don't need the staff. And she was very upfront with me early on that that was going to happen and said, hey, look, I can either give you a great letter of recommendation to find other employment or I'll back you to go out on your own. So I think you're more than capable. And I kind of went like, I don't need, financial backing. That's fine. I've got it covered. Obviously, just, a bit of the mentoring and support, some of the high level stuff as we go. So it turned out that that offer didn't go through and a second one came through where they wanted to keep the staff.
Yep.
That took that. I'd already kind of committed to transitioning out. So when they came to go, I said, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. I'll give you 6 months for your handover to continuation of service and you guys get on your feet. They said, great, thanks. The handover in their first 6 months didn't go great, just I guess with them splitting resources between their other firm in another state and there, and it
Yep.
probably didn't get the attention it needed. Some other stuff happened in the background and it didn't go great. And they on-sold in about 8 months, I think, just after
Yeah.
I left. And part of that was all the clients having been sold twice, no continuation of service, and really cracking it went, what's going on? We
Pretty
hate
boring.
these, who these, you, I don't want them. Where's Jesse gone?
Yeah.
And part of, leading, if you don't take the clients, they got on sold and they all just called me and I caught most of the clients already working to come over to my firm.
Brilliant, mate. So what is it that makes a good accountant, in your opinion?
Well, there's a technical side and there's the relationship side. So the technical side,
Mm.
you want to know your stuff. You want to be good at it. You want to have good attention to detail. You want to be able to problem solve. Um, you also need to be able to dig a little bit and see what's really going on and see what's getting hidden. Like
Yeah.
one of my clients who went and bought a V-rod and tried to put it through as building materials. So you got to be able to pull that stuff out. You got to be able to see where other accountants and bookkeepers have done poor work that you need to fix and identifying issues, which happens I've had it happen quite a bit with a lot of the work overview. So the technical side is you want to be good, especially like I do when I kick off at shitty accountants. I will kick off hard at them, and I want to make sure my work is really good so they can't come back at me. So it's that technical expertise in what you do, and also knowing your limitations. So I'm really good at my stuff with businesses and individuals and doing that stuff. International tax and transfer pricing, not my bag. I'll recommend you to an expert, that kind of stuff. So if you know what you're really good at and working on, Because if an accountant comes up and says, I know everything, no, they don't.
Yeah.
It's just like in the army, you've got subject matter experts on each individual things, and you use each of them as you need to. Now, the other
I think
part with relationships, you've got to be able to sit there and be able to talk to the person in front of you, explain it to them in terms they know, which I think a lot of technical accountants possibly are bad at. Because, the tradie sitting across from me, I'm talking about Div 7A loans and interposed entities, FBT and this kind of stuff. And it's just three-letter acronyms going through the head they don't know. So you got to be able to break it down, explain it in terms with diagrams and demonstrations so that if they don't walk out of the room knowing what you needed to know, you've failed.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the harder parts I think happens, because I do get a lot of people coming to me saying, my other account wouldn't return calls, return emails. I'd ask questions, I wouldn't understand the answers.
I think this relationship, this is a business podcast, but one of the key things about having a great relationship with an accountant is a fundamental part of your success as a business. And for me, one of the things that I always found is accountancy is two parts. It's either looking out the rear view mirror, which is your BAS, your accounts and the things that have happened, but the ability to also be able to look out the front and be able to help and guide and support and say, well, where are you going? Even some of the basic tactics of, tax versus borrowing. I'm not saying you don't ever you minimize tax within the law and within what you're entitled to. But if you're going to do that and you don't make a lot of money through the business, then you're not going to be able to borrow. So, and there's other tools or levers, maybe you invest in more people, more staff, but what's the effect of that on your borrowing capacity when it's going to come time to moving the family into a new house in 12 months? So being able to understand not just where people have come from and that rear view perspective, but helping them with what's in the future, I think is just critically important as well.
Yeah, it is. And we do get that a bit. So people come on and go, hey, I just don't want to pay any tax this year. And I go, cool, you're going to buy a house in the next 2 years? Oh, we're looking at it. Cool. We
Not
want you to
happening.
pay a lot of tax or you're not going
Yeah.
to be able to service your loan. So you do have to look at a lot of different kind of factors when assessing things. And we can have people come in and go, oh, I want to do all these purchases. I want to put all these toys in the business and this kind of thing. Like, aren't you looking at buying a property in 2 to 3 years? Don't you want to expand? You're taking away your operating capital by doing these things on depreciating assets. So hold off. If you're starting a business, you should be paying yourself the bare minimum to get by. Understand you're going to make some sacrifices to invest in the continued success of the business. And what we do see is, I don't know if you have it down up in Queensland right now, there's a lot of builders going under. And you start to look through it, and because they have had such a squeeze, you can see where they've gone, this is what I need to live, the lifestyle I'm living now, that comes first.
Yep.
And there's a cascading effect of not being able to pay the other bills, instead of looking at where you personally as a business owner can reduce what you're taking to ensure the health and longevity of your business. And I get it's tricky, especially if you've got a wife and kids and they're saying, hey, we've got this kind of standard of living. But if you're just going in there going, this is what I need to live, and it doesn't match up across what's the reality of what's happening in your business, you're going to have a really bad time. And so that is, one of the forward-looking things where we go, where do you want to end up? What do we have to do to get there? Understand it's a process.
I think one of the lines I always use, like, a tax problem is a good problem, because if you've got to pay tax, it means you're creating good revenue and things are happening. But it's something that the other important thing as well is the exit of the business. Are you going to get out one day? It's one thing to have a self-employed entity where yes, you have a business, your own boss, but you go to work and you come home. But if you stop working, there is no more, versus creating an asset. And if you ever want to sell that thing, well, if you're hiding stuff under the covers and running, all these expenses through the business, are you robbing Peter to pay Paul in the long run? In terms of what a sale asset could be.
Yeah, and look, I've seen that one pop up a couple of times where they go, it brings in this is what it's worth. And I bring out the financials and go, what are you talking about? It's running at a loss.
What,
Oh, no,
what do you
we're
mean?
taking
Yeah.
cash.
You want $1 million for
holding
this
that
business?
For one, because that's tax fraud, and now it's worth nothing. You can't show it. You need to go run another 2 to 5 years and put that in and show it to build the value, or no one's going to buy it. So you come to me and say, I've got a business, but I take 100 grand of cash. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Prove
It
it.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The other one too there is, and this is where, again, let's come back to that relationship with the accountant. As an accountant, to have the balls to say, mate, what are you doing? Come on, you're taking the piss. Have you ever had to sack clients because they just push the limits too much?
I have.
Yeah.
Yep. And I generally don't lose clients once I have them, because of the relationships we build and the services I offer. There was one who left, and I'm guessing it's a little bit to do with price, and I'm guessing the other part of it is the constant personal expenses going through, trying to say it was business related, and it's very clearly not. And then instead of paying himself a wage, they were just spending cash as they go. And
Yep.
like, they spend $6,000 a quarter, and I go, fantastic. We have to gross that out with PAYGW and super to put it through now. So that 6,000 you took is really $10,000. And there's another
Where,
$4,000 on the BAS, and there's 1,200
where's that
bucks
money?
of super. And they're just sitting there going, I only took $6,000. Like, yes, but there's PAYGW on top of that. And it was a conversation every quarter. And again, it's a technical knowledge, but it's not that technical on that part. And I think they just went somewhere to a bookkeeper and accountant who just went, whatever you say, we'll just lodge.
Okay, that's fair.
And the dangerous part
Ultimately,
is there's a lot of those out there, and it makes what we're doing harder because we're complying with the rules. We're making sure it's right. We're setting you up to be successful and keep you safe. Is other people just go, we'll just lodge whatever you tell us to. And then you get all these people running around committing tax fraud and going, all, down the pub telling their mates, I did this, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah.
That dodgy person over there that's not even checking what you're telling him is not doing anyone any favors.
Man, I just want to go pick a moment, right? As you joined this meeting today, I was, talking to a couple of other lads, top
Mhm.
blokes who are got a little business going, and they were looking at, really legitimizing and wanting it to grow. I just want to reach out to the people who are thinking about starting a business and getting the fundamentals right first. Uh,
Mhm.
there's no end of courses or programs or structures or business plans and this stuff that you could do. What's some of your key guidance for simple, effective, but diligent preparation for business?
All right. So I guess the first thing you do is you spot an opportunity that you want to take advantage of. If you can identify it and there's a market for it, you've got a pretty good track to go do some further due diligence or investigation to see if it's going to work out for you. Um, and you were talking to these guys about this morning about creating business plans. Business plans are a great tool, but the point of a business plan isn't just to here's a document to give someone, they ask you your business plan. That is basically all your knowledge on the subject, getting it down on paper and seeing if it's viable. So I'm in Queensland. The Queensland government, on their business website, have a really great business plan template, and a lot of the other state governments do too, and just a lot of other entities have them. But it's just basically a great big Word document that tells you, hey, to create a business plan, this is what you need to do and research, and these are the things you want to do. So you want to work out kind of where your location is going to be, what the population is like there, if it's viable there for what you're doing. So if you want to do something really youth oriented, and let's say you stick it up at, say, Bribie Island in Brisbane, which is where a lot of our retirees move to, maybe it's the wrong option. So that first part there, you're looking at where is it viable to do this. Then you move into like your SWOTs, your strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. And you start to identify how your business is going to work and what you can possibly work on and what your threats are. It starts to go through cash flow management and expenses. So as you work through that, you might find things out like, oh, we actually have to go do this training course, be able to register to get this business off the ground. And it's little things like that you would have known about until you are prompted to go look. Um, and then one of the really important ones is the competitor analysis. So
Mm.
when I was starting mine out, that was, okay, well, let's see what competitors are. And there was 12 in my suburb. So you look at what they're doing, their strengths, the size of their firm, what they're charging, and where I can fit into that. And if you go and want to, let's say I want to start up, we'll go with coffee shops because they're on every corner. I want to start up a coffee shop because I'm great at coffee. I love it. I want to put it here. This is what I want to charge. Where my fiance salon is, we have 4 coffee shops in 200 meters. So you can imagine a fifth one going in. It's, mate, your competitor analysis should have identified that this is an overpopulated market where you are. Adjust. So your business plan as you're going through it's helping you understand what if it's a viable option or not, and it's also helping you learn all the things as you go because you don't know what you don't know, and this is one of the opportunities you get to go through and do that research and really learn. So by the time you've finished it and you're handing it over to someone else, you already know it. And you know if it's a viable option or not. And if you get halfway through and it's not viable, and it gives you that opportunity before you've invested any more time or capital or made a big call like ending your employment to chase it, that it's going to work or not, and then you can pivot. And I know I asked the question at the Vet Business Expo uh, the other week when we had that panel on board who were really successful guys but had had a couple of businesses fail or pivot. And I asked a question about, how often you guys revisit those, and they all said like, yep. One of them was once a year, every year we revisit, we see what's going on and we replan. And it's should be done that way. It's a live document and circumstances do change. And it prompts you to go back and go through that again and see what you can do. And one of the other guys made a great point that start out with the napkin in a restaurant and sketch it out. And that's the great starting point to move on from. So even just from that simple sketch, oh, we want to do this. Talk to your mates like, oh, hey, we want to do a coffee shop here, and someone goes, mate, there's 5 there. What do you mean? So that starting point's great, and then moving into the bigger, kind of more formalized documents when you get that really deep information that decides on, if it is a viable option or not.
Your thoughts on using ChatGPT as a guidance tool?
ChatGPT is great for guidance, but you need to take the info you're getting out of it and verify it and kind of check it. So it's not going to be able to do some of the things like tell you how much your insurance is going to be for it. You need to go get quotes. Yeah. It's not going to be able to possibly tell you a really in-depth competitor analysis, because some of that is looking through their websites, look at their offerings, look at their prices. If you can't get that, maybe you've got to go sit on the corner with binoculars out and see how many clients they've got coming in a day and what they're charging them, trying to work out kind of what they're making. But you brought up a really good point with those boys this morning, is what other options would there be for this space? And it came out with a bunch of other things you can do when essentially it's sitting there empty. And that's a really good way to use it, because it does come up with some of those kind of other things. So if you can use ChatGPT to give you ideas and pull some of it out, and then use the other documents and merge them and kind of use what you're getting out of ChatGPT with your own research and what you've done, put them both together, you're probably going to have a really, really strong case.
Mate, I think you nailed it there, is that I love to use ChatGPT as my ideation tool, but it's not my execution tool. So instead of sitting here and brainstorming and, it's just a really fast way to just grab information and grab ideas. But it's not perfect. It's flawed. It's just a search machine. So you must go back and do that actual diligence and play with real numbers and real research to make it successful. Mate, I just want to share something that happened to me early on in business. First business, Secure Windows, kicked off, did well, earning good revenue. But then we got to a really quirky point of accounts payable and receivable. I can't remember the numbers, but we're doing maybe 150 or 200 grand a month. And one day somebody said to us, it was our accountant, sent us a bill and said, you got 70 grand payroll tax. And I was just like, what's payroll tax? So we just literally grown so fast that literally you got to cough up 70 grand. How, looking into the front rather than looking into the rear, cash flow and projections, how important is this to the fundamentals of a business?
Look, it's one of the most important factors you need to consider, because without cash flow, you're dead.
So we were lucky, man, that we had it. Otherwise, we would have folded. Where do we get that money from?
Yeah. And if your accountant's there, and it depends on how often your accountant's seeing your figures. So if you're kind of a once a year person, hey, I go to my account at the end of the year, with all my figures, just get my tax done. When we're not able to see stuff sometimes quick enough to react. Yeah. But if you're talking to them constantly, and like I say to people, I want you to call me anytime you're thinking of doing something, so I can tell you if it's a good idea or not. My clients are all on set fees that cover everything, so I'm not going to bill them for phone calls or emails. And I want you to call me, because that 30-second phone call while you're in a car yard deciding to buy your missus a car from the company account, I can save you a nightmare of problems. Yeah. And it just goes from the 30-second phone call to, well, now we've got 2 hours of problems to deal with at the end of the year, and here's a $10,000 bill, man. Because
and like that lovely car that you bought for your missus. Have you heard of FBT, mate? Fringe benefits tax. Where's that money coming from?
It was, yeah. So if you're regularly in contact with them and they're looking at it pretty often, we can get a pretty good idea of what's going on and kind of foresee some problems that might come up. But again, that's down to the client has to be also feeding us that information. So if it's just once a year, here's the stuff, we can't do it. If
Yeah.
it's we are live in, say, your zero file and we're talking to you monthly and we're doing updates and we're doing forecasting and kind of giving you updated stuff, we're going to see it coming and we're going to be able to act on it.
This
Now,
is
having said that, there are accounts that just go outside of my scope. I'm just compliance. And I've had, we dealt with that quite a bit a few years ago when COVID was happening. I won't throw names around, but a Big Four had a contract with a franchise. That contract ended. They came over to place I do some consulting for, and we started looking through previous returns and figures, and they'd never dealt with any directors loans or Div 7A loans.
Yep.
Never told them what they were. Just went out of scope. We're just doing the tax return. It's a
This is
2 minute
but
conversation. Created a
yeah.
myriad of dramas because the accountants went, not my problem.
But a Div 7A is a pretty just explain to us what a Div 7A is. It's a pretty fundamental basic. If your accountant doesn't know what a Div 7A is, you're with the wrong accountant.
Yeah, it is. So it's one of the more technical areas again, but it's basically if you own a company and you're doing the work for the company as a shareholder and director, which a lot of small business owners sometimes do set up in, the company's money isn't your money. You can't
What?
spend it on
It's not my
yourself.
money.
Not your money until you issue it to yourself as wages or a dividend. And so there are some people who don't grasp like, oh, it's my company, it's my money. It's a separate legal entity, it belongs to them.
Yeah.
Until you pay it to yourself in some way, it's the company's money. And so they had just been taking saying, oh, it's drawings from my business. There's no such thing as drawings in a company. That's a sole trader and partnership term. And so they're not business experts, they're not tax experts, they don't know this. It's up to the accountant to tell them and guide them. And they hadn't done that. And they were just racking up these director loans year on year on year. And the thing with the director loan is, the
You've got to
hint's in
pay
the
it back.
name,
It's
the
a loan.
loan. It's got to be
It's a loan.
repaid and it's got to have
Yeah.
interest charge on it at the ATO's rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the moment it's about 8.7%. So there are ways to get around it. So, you issue it as wages, you issue dividends, there are ways, but these had been racking up for several years, never dealt with. And once it's not dealt with correctly in the year after, you're supposed to issue it as deemed dividends, which is a horrible thing because you don't get any tax credits for it.
Yeah.
And so
And
these guys have just done nothing. It's a 2 minute conversation. You go, hey, you've taken money, so we've got to deal with that in a way. It's either wages or a dividend. So this is what we're going to do and come up with a plan. And they just didn't.
and the thing is there, I'll grab you what you said there. That plan's really important because if you need to take 20 grand out of the business and it's there in a loan and you're going to make really good money next year again, then talk to your accountant about what plan you can put in place. Should I repay it back? Should I convert it into wages? Can I take it out of the dividend? Instead of me taking a dividend, the dividend pays the loan off. So the accountant has these tools to guide you in what's right for your individual situation. Mate, I just want to while we're on the term of structure, sorry, did I say, was that correct what I said then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And
cool.
what you've done is, not every way works perfect for everyone. So, small business owners, cash flow can be up and down. So I can't pay myself a set wage every week.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's nothing and I'm putting money into the business. Sometimes I'm taking it out and hopefully build up enough to where we can run a really good budget and I'm paying myself regularly and the business is building up a profit. But when you're starting out in some of the smaller businesses, it is touch and go. And there's no
Yeah.
right and wrong way about how to take it out as you're going. It's just that we need to have a plan to deal with it later. And
Yeah,
if your account is
exactly.
good and they explain this is the consequences and the plan we have going forward and we'll deal with it, and they can vary the plan as they go as other things change, your battle's half won. But it's sticking your head in the sand and not dealing with it is the problem.
I can't help but think, this comes back to that word relationship. And do you have the confidence and trust to actually share this with your accountant? And actually, sometimes your accountant is going to be a savior. Like by sharing the bad news, by not glossing over things and exposing yourself, he or she's the one that's going to get a plan in play to damage mitigate or get you out of it. Mate, one of the things that people get confused a lot about, I'd like to have a quick chat about trust. So we know that as individuals, we can play in the sole trader and partnership space. And then, when we incorporate or we become a company, there's, various different structures between PTY Ltd or limited by guarantee, depending on your purpose and shareholding and all of these different options. But trust is always one that catches people. Can you just share what are the broad kinds of trusts?
So there are a few different kind of trusts. So we have bear trusts, which are usually set up for self-managed super funds. We have discretionary trusts, which are where we normally have our family trusts and where we set up for the benefits of our whole family group. We do get a lot of businesses run through those, or they're just there kind of to hold assets for the
Yep.
benefit of all the family members. Then we get unit trusts or fixed unit trusts, which they're again a trust, but where you don't have discretion to vary the distribution. So it is, I'm entitled to X% of the distributions of the capital and the income of this trust. And we sometimes see those set up where things like property development between partners,
Yep.
or friends going into business together don't want a company, so they want to use a trust, and that's where we see those. And then those kind of, there's also a hybrid variable fixed trust where you can have fixed
Yep.
entitlements and discretion to vary distributions as well. And then we get kind of the bigger cash management unit trusts, which is where you see like Vanguard, beta shares, all
Yep.
those kind of investment options with your managed funds. They all are really good at doing different things. The most common one we see is the discretionary family trusts, where mum and dad set up a business inside the trust because it's for the benefit of everyone in the family group. And they want to distribute to the kids, either to give them some income or to keep their tax down. And it's a great option to use. There are different challenges and different rules. For example, with a trust, you can't distribute losses. So if you want to
Mhm.
buy a negatively geared investment property, just be aware that negative gearing on the property cannot be offset against any other income for you personally unless it goes through the trust. So we don't recommend that there. If the reason for the investment property being negatively geared is to pull down your other income somewhere. We can't distribute losses for any other reason from a trust. They stay quarantined in the trust until they've been offset against other trust income. Um, and then any profit or taxable income that comes through must be distributed to the beneficiary. So you don't have the option to hold it in a trust at a lower tax rate like you do with a company. And so
Yep.
some of those kind of terms people don't quite understand. So I look at a trust, it's kind of like a big bucket. You fill it up during the year. At the end of the year, you've got to empty it to start the new year, and it's got to go out to your beneficiaries. But the
Yep.
really good thing is you can choose how much goes out to each person. And so that's where you get your really good tax planning at the end of the year. You go, okay, dad has income from this other thing. His tax rates are all pretty high. We're not going to give it to him. Mum doesn't. So we can give her, $20,000 tax free. We've got kids over 18, which, they're all at uni, not earning income. We can give each of them $20,000 tax free. And so all of a sudden you can distribute, depending on how many kids you've got and who's not working, possibly $100,000 of income going to the family unit tax free. Whereas if that went to you personally, you're paying, 20, 22, $23,000 of tax on it.
Yeah. And this is the key difference between a discretionary trust and a unit trust. The unit trust it's not shareholdings, but everybody owns, sorry, not that incorrect. The beneficiary is fixed in terms of your proportion by the units you have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
So I've
there is
seen
no,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I saw one recently with three friends banded together to develop a property. So one
Yep.
of them owned the land already, and he said, "Hey guys, I've got this land, but I need about another 100K to start the building cost to get the loan and do everything. If you guys each contribute 30K in, that's pretty close to 90. I'll front the other 10. We'll set up a unit trust for the profit that comes from this." And they did that. The first year it went through, there was losses quarantined in there because obviously you're building no income. Second year it was finalized, it was sold. They were all entitled to their 30% of the profit, and that all got distributed out there because, yeah, no discretion to vary the distribution. Is I'm entitled to 30% of the profit from this trust. So they work really well that way when you want to set definite distributions, and especially with friends, um, especially sometimes even with family members, because you can't sit there and the trustee who has the ultimate discretion to vary distributions go like, oh, well, I feel like I did more work, so I'm taking 50 and you can have 10. So also really good to stop those kind of arguments and safeguard people's relationships.
Yeah. Just set the rules at the front. That's what we crack on with. Mate,
Hmm.
I want to just sort of wrap up here. And there's a couple of points that have really come out for me today. The first one is I'm going to use just this back to this term relationship. It's in business, we've got to wear so many hats. There's so many different things we have to manage between, the team and the marketing, the sales and operations, and but you really need an expert to guide you, and you need to have a relationship with your accountant, somebody that you actually don't have to love them, but you have to. I believe you need to like being in their presence, because you should want to be in their presence a lot, because you're going to do a lot of work together. The other thing for me, I think, if the only time you're talking to your accountant is post BAS, or even if the bookkeeper's doing BAS, if the only time you're talking to an accountant is in June, you're not talking to them enough. So no less than quarterly, because again, as you mentioned, you've got to have the ability to maneuver and get good guidance. But mate, tell me, what kind of people do you look for at BBS Tax? Now, you're not for everybody. Who's the right person out there for you?
I mean, I'm not for everybody, but it's more the people who don't want to commit tax fraud. If you come to me and say, I want to hide everything, I'm going to tell you to take a hike.
Yeah.
But it's the people who want to have successful businesses who are doing the right things and are looking to, it's fine if they just want to, I just want to do this. I'm happy doing it. I just need my compliance done. No worries. I'm still going to pick up on the bits and pieces and give you some info as we go. Like, hey mate, like these costs seem unnecessary. Do you want to bring them down as opportunities to shave those? And the ones who do want to grow, we can start looking at forecasting business growth and that kind of stuff. But again, the relationships, some of the stuff, especially with money, some people get pretty embarrassed talking about.
Yeah.
And especially if they're not doing well, if you have a slump or something, it can be pretty embarrassing to talk about for some people. So it's important that you have someone who understands that, when you're talking about this stuff, you are going to be pretty vulnerable. When I talk about other counseling, talk about like half of what we do is counseling just half the time. And people will come in and go, I'm so embarrassed about this. And I'll show them and go, are you kidding? That's nothing. I talked to a guy last week and I had to give him a $500,000 tax bill. Like, don't stress. You're not doing anything wrong. It's that I guess that sometimes people feel like a failure if it's not doing really well. But again, it's a journey.
It's just business.
Yeah, it's business. We have ups, we have downs, and sometimes we do need to have the hard conversations where we go, from what I can see, I don't see this being viable. You should cut your losses. And then it's important to be able to do that as well and not just be all positive, happy, happy. I've had one client this week who the business is good, but it's in an industry that's going through a lot of change right now. And it's maybe no longer becoming viable. And they've looked at just shutting it down and going to employment. And when they've reached out to some of the providers, we'll go back. And I said, look, that's absolutely fine. If we look at the offer you've been given, I'll run the numbers and it's possibly, more financially beneficial for you to have that employment than all the extra stress and work and costs of doing the business yourself. So we've looked at that. They've reached out to suppliers and said, hey, so I'm looking at, and I think we're given 3 job offers and an offer for the purchase of their business straight away. So me as a client, me as a business owner, I lose that client, but it's far better for her. So I said, let's do this. It's having your clients there and generating revenue is great for you, but we shouldn't be doing it at their expense. So if I said, no, keep going, the business is great, it's not great for her. Again, that comes back to your relationship. You want your clients to do well, even if they're no longer with you. And I've had to move on a couple saying, what you're doing is great. You're at the top edge of my expertise. I want you to go to talk to this person, move over there. Or you have grown so big, you need an internal bookkeeper doing your books now. So I lost their books, but I keep doing their tax and they've got someone doing their internal stuff now. And at the end of the day, I want all my clients to be really successful. Imagine, it takes forever to build your reputation and then one incident to ruin it. So I could go, no, let's keep doing this and start not doing as good a job as I could with the amount of their work there, and something slips and they go, oh, he stuffed this up for us, reputation gone. But again, probably the more important thing is maintain the relationship in the best interest of the client.
Mate, I'm going to wrap it there. I couldn't think of a better way to finish up on. If you're looking for an accountant that is not only fair income, but is able to have the good and the hard conversations, which is exactly what you need out of accountant, you've got to really reach out from, Jesse from BBS Tax. The other thing too is, particularly if you're a veteran business owner and you want to work with someone that talks shop, Mate, that's what we're all about here at the veteran business community. Jesse, what's next for you in BBS Tax?
Just kicking through all this end of year tax return work. I consult out to a national book and tax franchise as well, doing all their training for their new franchisees and tax agents and support their bookkeepers. We've got, I think, a couple more people coming on the end of the year that I'm going to go do all the training for. We've got 2 weeks jumping on one of the lunch and the messes with you guys to talk about trusts.
Yeah.
And it's just work, and renovation.
Let me just plug that one. So on the 1st of October at 1 p.m. Sydney time, we're just going to get Jesse online to do with a workshop for our community on trusts and anything else you want to chat to him about. But the focus will be on trusts. What is a trust? Why you should set up a trust? What the what the strengths and weaknesses are, and then you can have a chat to him about whether that's the right fit for you or not. So, mate, thanks for joining us today. Haven't met too many guys that have gone from the infantry into accountancy, mate. So what a journey.
Yeah, it's a bit of a change, but it's good being in the aircon all day instead of out there sleeping in swags at night time in the summer.
Mate, love it. Take care, mate. I appreciate your time today. Again, if you're a member of the veteran business community and you want to be connected with like-minded individuals that not only are passionate about business, but have also got a decent story to share, just like Jesse does, then come and have a look at the veteran business community. We're at veteranbc.com, and you can find Jesse at bbstax.com.au, and all his details will be in the show notes below. So thanks, Jesse. My name's Pete Liston, and out.